Hi, I'm going to talk about drawing supplies today. We have a lot of different kinds of things that I have drawn in, sketched in. Usually I will use, there's several things you can get. You can get something that's marked sketch pad. That is usually not as great a paper and it's smoother. So I like that because I'm not fighting the tooth of a heavy-duty paper. Now on this watercolor pad, this was very inexpensive. It is 140 pounds, so I have used it to draw on as well. But you could also paint on this, although this particular kind was not as sturdy as some of my other 140 pound paper. So I really have used it a lot to draw on, to sketch out something that I'm interested in doing as a painting. Now, when you're first learning, don't cheat yourself and get the smallest, least expensive thing. And the reason I say that is because a sketch pad that is like this is a drawing paper. It's medium weight. It is 11 by 14. So we were using, like, our watercolor paper was like 9 by 12. So this is 11 by 14. So this is some bigger paper, and you can afford to play around a lot in here. And I have sketched all sorts of things, multiple things on multiple pieces of paper. I was working on umbrellas that day. I was trying to figure out a box and a ribbon. So you need some room. If you're trying to always do something really small and tiny, it's a little hard to get the result that you want. So that's why my first sketch pad is actually this one. And this is like a 16 by 20. And it's a 14 by 17. And so it's a Strathmore sketch pad. And I took it to my very first class that I took. So I've got all kinds of painting mixes in here, all sorts of layouts for landscapes, the various planes that are on landscapes, perspective. I've used this for lots and lots and lots of things, and I really like this size. So like right here, I was sketching an apple, and I was using some scumbling methods, and I write myself notes in these kind of books. I might forget what it was I was trying to do or what I learned. So I will write back here mountains and stuff. I just ignored all that, and I just wanted to see how this would work. I was trying to create form of this apple, get darker to lighter, and I was using a scumbling effect. So this was the cast shadow. This is where the light. I'm telling myself all this with all these different little notes. So make sure that you tell yourself what it is you were doing. Now, I'm going to set this down here. This is just a small little sketch pad, and I really like this one because it's the paper's really smooth, and I was able to get some really pretty leaves. Leaves have always intrigued me, and I thought, I want to be able to do that. And so a pencil is a good way to understand how to get the darks, the lights, how to put this leaf to where it looks like he's on top of these two leaves. Practice, practice, practice. This is a fun little book. My son-in-law was running for public office, and I was driving my grandson around. He wasn't old enough to drive. He was going door to door, putting out door signs, or yard signs and door knockers and things like that. And so I stayed in the car. I just drove him and let him do it. And I had this little sketchbook and a pen. It's not exactly a pen. It's kind of I don't have it here right now to show you, but it's kind of like a a brush that's in a pen form. And so I would drive into the driveway and I'd give myself, okay, we're going to be here for, 30 seconds or 2 minutes or whatever. I'd pick out something as soon as I drove into the driveway, and then I would sketch that. So at the end of the day, we had been to all these different places. I'd seen all these signs, so I was drawing all the different signs of businesses that we'd seen. So, all sorts of things were in here that we had seen. Storefronts and doors and window frames. I think there's a mailbox, there's a church, there's a tree that was dying. It was just a fun exercise. So when you're dropping your kids off at basketball or music or whatever, keep something in the car that you can be drawing with while you're waiting. This was a fun book I got at well, I want to say Half Price Books, but I wouldn't swear to that either. But it was a big bookstore. And it's got 300 drawing prompts in it. So you're saying, well, I want to draw, but I don't know what. Okay, well, this book is great for that because it tells you in the corner here, let's see, a bright idea, a computer from the future. This half is anaconda. This half is something upside down. So it gives you all sorts of little prompts to draw. This one here was a beach scene. So there's a horizon with a sunset and a palm tree. It's just something that gets your brain going to draw on. Now, as far as pencils, when I teach a class of, I have art camp here and I teach drawing usually 1 week out of the summer. And so I provide my students with it's a 9x12 sketch pad. There's like 100 sheets in it, and it's a drawing sketch pad, so it's kind of smooth. They're not going to be fighting the tooth on that. And I buy them a set of sketch pencils. Okay, there's 12 in there, and there's all different hardnesses. H is hard, HB, the B stands for soft. And I don't know this but I think it has to do with bituminous coal, which is softer. That's why it's a B. So anyway, there's 7B, 6B. The higher the number and a B, the softer it is. And then the lower the number and a B, it's not as soft. And then it gets to a fine. There's an F, that's fine. And then H's are hard. So you might have a 2H, and so that's like a pencil, a school pencil. And then so maybe 4H is even harder and finer. So you're going to have you want to get a set, not 12 of the same pencils, but varying pencils. And then you're going to learn about pressure from there on out. Then I give them a kneaded eraser and a polymer eraser like this. I seldom use mine. Mine is a mess. In fact, it's so kind of ratty looking that I'd have to wipe off all this charcoal first. But here's my kneaded eraser, and you get graphite or charcoal on there, and you just knead it until you get a good clean place, and you can mold it into, if you need a little teeny thing erased here, you can make your own little point on your eraser. I have a sharpener, and it's got it's a two-holer, but I seldom use it, particularly for the softer pencils. I use an X-Acto knife to sharpen most of everything with. Yes, there's a little bit of a learning curve, and you want to be careful, that you're always going away from you, but I can get a very fine point on any of my pencils just by, and I go around it. You're not going to get it quick. You're going to have to keep working at it, but you'll get it. So that's what I use. And then there are some things called blending stumps, and you can see how dark the edges are on these. They come all white, and as you blend in your graphite or your charcoal, whatever it is you're drawing with, it gets on there. So you can sharpen those, you can peel that off. There's a number of different ways, but they're pretty cheap, so I usually just buy new ones. But here's what my drawing supplies look like. I have a little plastic box, and I've got a half a dozen parts of sets in there, and I keep my sharpener in there, and I put my erasers, I keep them all in a Ziploc bag so they don't dry out, and I just throw those in there. And I also have a pair of gloves in there, because a lot of times I do draw with some pretty charcoal pencils like this, and it gets all over you, and then you get it on your face, you get it on your clothes, it all comes off. But you want to kind of be careful with it. But anyway, there's a good assortment of drawing supplies. Now, as a beginner, as I said, I would want to start with a good size sketch pad, and I might draw in quarters on there, but at least if I want to draw something big, if I want to work out something big, I've got the space to do it, and I'm not so constrained. I'd want to get a kneaded eraser, definitely. I'd want to have this is called a sketch pencil set. You can get this at any, I'm sure Walmart carries them. I know that Hobby Lobby has them, Michael's, Joann's Fabrics, any of those places have those kind of things. And when you're looking for a drawing pad, look for something that's kind of smooth, that's not too rough, but it has some thickness to it. So there you go. Let's get drawing.